Hi, welcome to Experience the Quilt. Today we're going to talk about dragon scales. Hi, I'm Amy. I own a long arm quilting business to finish your quilts and also teach you about art quilting. Go to experiencethequilt.com and place your order online by entering in the size of your quilt, choose a design, thread color, or chenille yarn for couching, and we offer local drop-off or you can mail it to us here in the Boise, Idaho area. We also offer binding. We finish quilts of all sizes, even kings. There's no extra charge for batting or thread ever. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter for 15% off your first quilt. Okay, I call this my dragon block. So what you're going to do is get 2 pieces of rectangular fabric. I had 2 that were rectangular, but I cut them prior to making this video. And all you do is overlap them just a little bit and then you'll use your rotary cutter to freely, you don't use rulers, freely cut just a gentle curve. You don't want to go really deep, just a gentle curve across the 2 of them and throw away the middle. Okay, so what you're left with is this, and your curves match. And ignore that mine kind of went a little wonky. That's going to be hidden in the seam allowance, so it won't matter. So what you're going to do now, you have these 2 rectangles all ready to go. You then take your 2.5 inch squares. These are, I have this cute little ruler, and it is a 2.5 inch ruler, 2.5 by 2.5. Okay, so I have these little squares. They're jelly rolls that I cut into squares. So you can use your scraps, you can use whatever. You're going to then take each one of these and you're going to fold it corner to corner in half, like so. Okay, and we're going to sew down one side, just one side. So I have it folded in half. I like to start with, right sides together. I had that the wrong way. So I like to start not with my sharp point, but my middle point. I feel like if I have my middle, I start with that middle point. I gotta switch to my straight stitch. I forgot that I was zigzagging, and I'm gonna pop on my 1/4 inch foot because that makes sure that I am just sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is what you do most of the time with quilting. But a 1/4 inch, you can do it without a 1/4 inch foot, but I find it easier. So I'm starting with my middle corner and I'm sewing to the outer corner. And I will do a bunch at a time, but I wanted to show you one. There, it's all done. And then I will take the scissors right there. I will take a pair of scissors and we will trim inside that seam and trim that corner away. Okay, then we flip the corner out, your triangle out, and I need a better than these big bulky scissors. I need a pencil or something so that I can actually get, and that's too sharp. Here, I will use my pen. There's lots of things you can use, and I know there's tools out there. I have a purple thing. I have all those. I need to get it out. I have it in my drawer, which is currently closed, and the light is in front of it, so I can't get to it at the moment. Here we go. I'll get it out in a minute and make it a nice sharp point. But we have our little corner there that we're going to then sew into our seam. So that's our first little cute triangle or scale or whatever you want to call it for your dragon block. So now we have all of our pieces sewn, and this is called chain piecing. When you continue to sew one and then another without stopping, it saves time. So now we just take our scissors and clip them. And I'm just going to clip a few, show you how fast it is. Then what we need to do is you take the corner, the pointed corner, not the middle corner where we started sewing, but the pointed corner, and I am going to trim that at an angle like that. So it looks like a little arrow. And we just do all those little corners because then it alleviates the bulk at our point. Okay, so now that I have it trimmed, I'm going to turn it right sides out. I use this thing, it's called a purple fang. I really like it. You can use a pencil or whatever you use to turn your corners. But I just push that tight little corner out so we have a nice little point. It just takes a little bit of finagling, and it doesn't need to be super pointy, but that one is, I don't particularly like that that's not pointed enough for me. There we go, a little better. Then I'm going to take it and iron them, and we'll have all of our little scales finished. So now you see we have all our little triangles and they are turned right side out. And so now I'm just going to give them a quick press so that they'll hold still when I want to sew them in, because sewing them into the curve can be tricky if you don't follow the couple little tips that I have. So just give them a quick little burst of steam. I have not had a steam iron in many years because I learned from Ricky Timms that you don't put water in irons or they just go bad. Well, I just bought this new iron at the quilt show, and I really like it. And it actually uses regular water and just a lot of steam. And it doesn't get too hot that like the steam can really burn you that bad, which I was shocked and surprised at. But look how fast that just, I have no, oh, I did not iron that one well. I don't have a wool mat or anything underneath me. I am really impressed with it. I've only had it a couple days and I'm having a lot of fun just being able to have a lot of steam because I missed my steam. And you can just set it down like this or set it on this cool little, oh, you can't even see, but this cool little silicone pad that it comes with. Okay, I've got one piece of my rectangle. The part with the curve is under my needle. I'm taking my triangles now and laying them flat against the curve. I've got my stitch length set at 4. It doesn't have to be, but we're just sewing a stay stitch because it makes it easier when you're doing the curves. If this is already stitched down, you don't have to pin quite as much. And I don't like pinning. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I don't like pinning. So I'm literally going to stitch 1/4 of an inch or a little less actually. And I'm just going to keep sticking my little triangles, my little dragon scales, where I want them. Sometimes you have to lift your foot to get it under there. And I'm following the curve of the white fabric. So it's pretty easy. You're just doing a stay stitch so it stays where you want it when you do your curve. You want to make sure that you don't put one of your triangles clear to the edge of your fabric because you're going to have a seam allowance there and you don't want one of your little triangles stuck in your seam allowance. So I now have all my little triangles sewn, and you can see that some I overlapped and some I did not. You know, if you feel like you want another one up here, you can do that. It's not going to matter. It's kind of fun to overlap them if you feel like you need another one. I feel like I didn't quite overlap the way I wanted on that one, so I'm going to just throw this one in right there, and you can do that. So I put another one in, and now we're going to sew our white back on to our other side of our fabric to finish our block. So we make sure we have it matched up, and when sewing curves, it's really not that scary. You're going to match up the top, and you're just going to always match at the top. Okay? And just go slowly. What I do is I tend to let my bottom, I move my bottom where I want it to be, and so that my top just kind of lays there. And I just do a little bit at a time. And I just make sure wherever I want it, I'm holding on to my bottom and moving it where I want it. So if my curve is moving, then I'm kind of I kind of just bring the two together, but I make sure that my back is where I want it following the presser foot, if that makes sense. Sometimes you have to bring your back, the top back a little bit, but since it's a gentle, easy curve, it's really not hard to sew. Just know that when you're done, typically your block does not match. So you always cut it a little bit larger so that we can cut it down. Now that our block is all done, I've got it all sewn in my quilt. I forgot to show you the step by step, but when it's all done, I just had to square it off because my sides were a little wonky. Sometimes that happens when we're sewing curves, sometimes not so much. Here's another way I did it with this big long yellow block, and I did the same exact technique, and it turned out perfect. It turned out just right on where I wanted it to. So that was really kind of surprising, because usually when I do curves, I end up just with my edges slightly off and I have to square them off, and that's normal. So I sewed it into my different blocks. This is a really fun technique. One thing to remember is you want to make sure that you don't start putting your dragon scales in until about 1 inch in. Otherwise, you end up getting them cut off in your seams, or like up here, I have a little one sewn into the seam, and that's okay, but I think they would look a little better if we started in a little farther. So one thing for me to remember, and for you to remember, is maybe to mark your fabric or just start it in about 1 inch. If you're looking at wanting to quilt this, I plan on quilting mine with some wavy lines following the dragon scales. So I'm going to quilt this way, and on this one I'll quilt this way, and when I get to my scales, I'll just flop them over and pin them down. Then they won't be in my way as I'm quilting. So that's just an idea I have. I'd love to see the different things that you do, and love to see your projects. If you'd like to send me pictures or post them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. For more like it, just hit that subscribe button below and check out the rest of our YouTube channel. You'll also find videos and tutorials on everything art quilts, whether you're just beginning or learning to enhance your skill.